Hello and welcome to an episode of Historically Marked, another Disney edition. I'll be taking you inside the Walt Disney Hometown Museum. This was once an old train station, and yes, a lot of people did look for trains here, and Walt Disney himself being one of them. So it's definitely going to be a cool ride. Plus, I'm going to be taking you to some of his old haunts here in this town. So it's definitely going to be a magical adventure, Disney style or historically marked style, one or the other. So again, this used to be a train station. Now, Walt Disney and his brother once stood somewhere in this area, and I'll show you a picture that was in the museum about that. But yes, that old Marceline thing is still there. That is not the entrance, by the way. The entrance is on the side. And that right there is the entrance. Now we're going to go in. This is the original ticket office at the station, and of course talks about railroads and all. Some memorabilia. This one really talks about Walt's obsessions with trains. Wow, lots of cool relics. Gotta take a look at this. Kleenex tissues, playing cards. Being a division point, it was a sizable building. And an old radio. Oh, never mind. It's got a CD player, which makes it new. Okay. Very nice. All right, this is the old waiting room. This is young Walt and his sister Ruth. Those are Disney's parents, Elias and Flora Disney, and the gentleman that owned that farm that I was at. This is, of course, where he went to school. And that right there is young Walt. And not surprisingly, there are some things named after Disney in this town, including the Walt Disney Pool and Park Complex, which he was here for on July 4th of 1956. That's him signing autographs for kids. Yep, that's him, Walt and Roy, his brother. That's just the announcement. And again, this is the old waiting room, and this is one of those classic benches where people would wait for trains. And by the way, trains do not stop here, even though at least 70 of them go through this town. Of course, trains did stop here at one time. Bands played, beauty queens were crowned, and the argument over who was the first to jump in the pool continues to this day. Talking about when, you know, the Disney brothers returned to Marceline for that pool. All right, going into this next room. This was an original midget Autopia ride that was opened adjacent to the Storybook Land, Canal Boats, and Disneyland. This was retired in 1966, and it was a gift to the city of Marceline. Yep, 1966 was when Walt donated it, and that was also the year that he passed away, and he was unable to come because of his illness. But in a tape message, he said, "This ride was very popular with Disneyland's younger guests, and I hope it will be an equally big hit with the children of Marceline." Okay, he died 3 months later in December of 1966. Look at that. Walt Disney World, Marceline all the times. So yeah, it's about 12:40 here, 1:40 in Florida, and California, 2 hours away, it's 10:40. So this is what is known as the Collector's Gallery, and that is, of course, a lot of old comic books. All right, check this out. Another autograph bench. Old 78 records. Wow. Circa 1948 to 49. Disneyland band hat. Wow. The 50th anniversary of Disneyland Resort, Sword and Shield, 2005. An old tricycle. An autographed Walt Disney lithograph. There's one of Tinkerbell and there's one of Mickey. This is a hand-painted guitar that was done by an artist named Guy Gilchrist. And this was just a thank you to the museum staff. An old sign. This one dates from 1988 to 2001, and now it's here. Very nice. Some more old stuff. 35th anniversary tickets to Disneyland. Holiday lights. And this is another photo of the Disney brothers, Roy and Walt, when they visited here in 1956. And of course, that right there is the building I'm literally in right now, the old train station. Talks about Walt Disney's family. This is about Roy. Ruth Disney and Flora Disney. That's his mother, and of course that's his younger sister. An old 1950s TV. And Davy Crockett was, of course, a sensation because of Disney in 1955. Disney's Uncle Robert, Elias's brother, was the main reason that the family moved to Marceline. Now, another reason is because when they were in Chicago, you know, Elias didn't, you know, at the time, Chicago was all hustle and bustle. It was dirty, it was crime-ridden, well, according to the tour guide's words, but they wanted a more peaceful setting, and unfortunately, two of Walt's siblings, they wanted to go back to Chicago, you know, so that's why they didn't really spend so much time here, is because, you know, Walt Disney's father didn't really have much farm help. So, alright. It was a big occasion for the Disney family when their elegant, distinguished Uncle Robert came to town by train from Kansas City. And he later moved to Los Angeles, and then a few years later, Walt arrived in California and paid his uncle $5 a week for room and board. And then the seed money, they were starting their own Disney Brothers studio. Now, many interesting stories arise from Walt Disney because we all want to know the secret of his success. But there was one, it says right here, on New Year's Day, 1938, the Disney clan gathered to celebrate the wedding anniversary of his parents. Walt portrayed a Disney news reporter with a radio station called DISNEY. And he wanted to interview his parents, but not surprisingly, his father wasn't really amused by it. He kept giving out one-word answers, much to Walt's annoyance. But he playfully questioned them on their early years together. Oh, man. It's funny what you don't know. Or maybe what you already know. Alright, so in here is the Club 55 room. For those that don't know what Club 55 is, now 55 was, of course, the year Disneyland opened, but those who first worked there got their first paycheck the same time as many others at Disneyland in 1955. They all formed a club to honor themselves as longevity and historian for historical purposes, and Yeah, it talks all about it. Wow.
Fond memories of the past, and dear youth may savor the challenge and promise of the future. Disneyland is dedicated to the ideals, the dreams.
As far as education, Walt attended Park School, elementary school that is. Him and Ruth actually attended 1908, this first year that it opened, so it was a good time on their part. But for 2 years, Walt was held out of school so he could keep a watchful eye on his younger sister on the farm. But once she was old enough to enroll in classes, the two would happily walk 4 miles round trip each day, hand in hand. That's 2 miles of school. So yeah, just remember, cars weren't really common back then. I hope I can visit that school here in this town if it's still standing.
And the Disneys lived in Marceline, a brand new school.
Draw your best Mickey. Probably. I'll pass on that today. And this is a picture of Walt pointing to that stone, the cornerstone. And what they did was they preserved it, and as a matter of fact, it is right here. Check it out. I'm pointing to the same thing Walt Disney once pointed to. And these are all models of Disneyland by Dale Varner. Now, I visited Disneyland in 2005 with my family. Great times. I have not been in Disney World. Save your laughter. I will make it out there one of these days. Here's another interesting factor. 2 years after Walt's death in 1968, the citizens of this town successfully lobbied the U.S. Postal Service to issue a commemorative stamp in honor of Disney. And they got their wish. In fact, it's right here. And they celebrated it September 11th of '68. Little is known that Walt Disney actually wanted to build a theme park here in this town. Yes. Now there is a story that he also wanted one in St. Louis, but that's a different story. Hopefully I can talk about that in a different episode, but plans never came into fruition here in this town. But he did hint many times that even though he was born in Chicago, his roots all were drawn here, and he wanted to share his memories with the public. But his brother Roy turned his attention to the Florida project, is what we now know as Walt Disney World, that opened a few years after Walt's death. But just something a little worth noting here. And just outside the museum, you can just walk to some parts of the town, and there's some old train cars. And in front of me is the E.P. Ripley Park, which I'll explain more on. This right here is a diesel locomotive. And even though it looks really inviting, they do not want anybody to play on top of that thing. Alright, so E.P. Ripley. Who was E.P. Ripley? Okay. So in 1898, the Santa Fe Railway donated land in the center of the city for a park. Walt Disney played in this very park as a child and would later name the first steam engine installed in the Disneyland resort the E.P. Ripley. As a tribute to our railroad history, the park features both a steam engine and caboose. That must be it over there. This right here is the Walt Disney Post Office. It was named in his honor. Let's see what it says here. Okay, a commemorative stamp honoring Walt Disney. Marceline's favorite son was issued from this post office September 11th, '68. Next to that is a historical marker. Pretty much the same thing as I was saying at the museum, but the postal, about how the people of this town wanted a stamp in his honor. So Chicago, Illinois, Anaheim, California, where Disneyland is, Kansas City, and Burbank. They all vied, along with Marceline, to be the location of the first day of issuance of this stamp. Well, sorry guys, Marceline was chosen to be the location of the issuance ceremonies. The Disney family and other honored guests arrived for the postage stamp ceremonies on the Santa Fe Railway, renamed the Walt Disney Special. They originally ordered 120,000 stamps, but the unusual demand for these stamps resulted in total production of 153,015,000. Yep. And that, my friend, is how he's a big deal. Alright, so here's another building that was important, Walt Disney wise. This is the Allen Hotel. And let's see what it says here. Constructed in 1906, the building was brand new when Roy Disney remembered the entire family eating out at the Allen Hotel dining room. Roy didn't remember what he had to eat, but he did remember that his little sister Ruth spilled a plate of food that his father had paid for in real cash. The Hotel Marceline, found on Main Street USA, Disneyland, is a replica of this building. Awesome. And this here is a confectionery, sorry. The confectionery, located at the site in the Allen Hotel block, built in 1905, was a favorite stop for Marcelinians with a sweet tooth. When designing downtown Disney, which is adjacent to Disneyland, the Disney company included Marceline's confectionery in this themed area. Downtown Disney opened 2001. And now we're at Marceline City Hall. Another marker, Main Street USA. Walt Disney's hometown of Marceline today, as much as it was when he lived here. The first plans of Disneyland show a remarkable resemblance to the town, with its storefronts on Main Street and locomotives coming and going. All who enter Disneyland travel down the main street Walt created from his memories of his childhood in Marceline. He hoped to give all visitors the impressions and sensations he had in Marceline as a boy. Walt wanted people to feel comfortable. He wanted them to feel like they were coming home. Welcome to the original Main Street USA. Oh man, can you dig it? Now we're approaching the Uptown Theater, and I'm sure this obviously has a little something to do with Walt's life. First you guys look at that storefront. Alright, so this was, of course, years after the Disneys moved out of this town, but opened June 30th, 1930. In 1956, Walt and Roy Disney held the Midwest premiere of their feature film, The Great Locomotive Chase, in this theater. They personally greeted each child at the door. Walt and Roy took the stage before the movie started, and the children of Marceline sang the Mickey Mouse song. Because the Disney program was not broadcast in Marceline, the children learned this song especially for this occasion. Okay. I guess it's the M-I-C-K-E-Y, blah, 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 blah. I can't sing it because of copyright purposes, but the movie ran from 1:30 p.m. in the afternoon until 1:30 a.m. the next morning, so everyone who wanted to could see the movie. In 1998, the Walt Disney Company held another premiere, The Spirit of Mickey, at this theater. 18,000 enthusiastic Disney fans came to Marceline for the premiere. Wow. I imagine they all came from around the world. And now the Tiki Booth. Oh, that's a little goofy. We're a little wordplay. Run the Tiki Booth. See this plaque? Yep, July 4th, 1998. Oh, there's an Airbnb here too. Okay. I mean, it's upstairs. Very smart. And here's a nice mural here. It's on the side of a toy store, a toy company, or rather. To tell the truth, more things of importance happened to me in Marceline than have happened to me since, or are likely to in the future. And this is just a map of Main Street USA. Yep, they got it all. Dollar General. And of course they had to include Casey's, best pizza. Just kidding on that one. And just not even half a mile down the road from Main Street USA is this big park in Walt Disney's name, Walt Disney Municipal Park. And again, Disney didn't spend a lot of his childhood here. I mean, a few years, yeah, that's quite a lot for some people, but Any town that had Walt Disney as a resident, they would definitely name something after him. And over there is that pool area, which I'll show you. But there's plenty for kids to enjoy in this park, and as well as adults. So here is the city's municipal swimming pool. It is actually noted Marceline Municipal Swimming Pool. Now, the pool that Walt and his brother came here to dedicate is gone. And this pool replaced it in 2017. And of course it's not full yet, but Memorial Day, at the time I'm doing this video, is next week, so most pools will be open by that time. So yeah, just a little caution. So in case you're ever in Marceline, yeah, the original pool is no longer exists. All right, well, thanks so much for tuning into this episode of Historically Marked. Oh man, this is just so awesome to walk in the footsteps of where Walt Disney, the man, the legend, once roamed. I mean, this was his ultimate hometown, or so he says, and of course this town takes plenty of pride in that for the right reasons, and I'm glad that I was able to find a lot of his old haunts and stuff where he got his inspiration. So definitely, what behind me is the inspiration of Main Street U.S.A. Give you a little more pan shot. Okay, all right, so I am Jason in Marceline, Missouri, signing off.